Growing up as a child was so fascinating looking at cricket and football. And always I used to think to myself, how come these athletes play so flawlessly at that particular level, at the international level, and still have so much of energy and stamina and win matches and inspire many people. I always was a fan of these two sports, and growing up at the age of 15, my dad introduced me to boxing as a sport, and from there on, I went on to play until the age of 22, till the national levels. And I was so grateful to my dad to have introduced me to such a combat sport where a lot of values were taught to me. Values like courage, leadership, and out of the box thinking. Once I faced difficulty fighting a tall opponent. I couldn't get through his defenses at the state level, and I lost that match by a lot of margin. And that is when my dad told me about the concept of visualization and asked me to visualize at least 3 to 4 minutes before a match, before any match, and try to see which type of opponent is in front of me. Is he tall? Is he short? Is he compact? And what are the general punches that he's going to throw, and how am I going to counter those with my own punches. He said that if I can visualize for at least 1 minute before the match flawlessly, then definitely I have better chances of winning. And so did it happen. It turned out to be magic for me before matches. When I used to visualize a lot and used to go inside the ring, I always thought that my mind always has the answers for this particular opponent, and that was all because of visualization. Because the neural pathways got clearer and clearer, and I got a sixth sense, as you might call it, of how to face any opponent. I gave up science after 12th standard and I picked up psychology from my bachelor's. And from there on, I was really curious about psychology, reading many theories about Freud, about the different psychologists in the field. And the only part of psychology which I used to use was for my sports performance enhancement. And I used to always think, is there a course in India which I can do to become a sports psychologist in the future? When I was completing my master's in psychology and I completed my first year, we had applied for one university in the Great Britain, and I was really looking forward to a course in specialized sports psychology. However, we got a letter from the British Psychological Society saying that I need to complete some more subjects before I can get into their college. They were even ready to give me a scholarship because I had a sports background. Then something unexpected happened. All of a sudden, one fine day, my dad passed away, and that was shocking for me and my family. And because of some family responsibilities, I took the decision to stay back in India. And this is how my dream of going to the foreign to learn a degree ended. However, this was not the end of the road for me, because I was still looking forward to complete one degree in sports psychology, maybe a diploma, maybe a certificate from somewhere. And at that time in India, there were a few courses in Punjab and few courses in Tamil Nadu. However, I found out a college in Bangalore and went there, and I learned the concepts of psychology for 1 year. I did an internship at Sports Authority of India and did a lot of research on my own. I also managed to play a team sport and at the national level, which was American football, to get to know the different concepts of a team. And that is where my resolve to become a sports psychology increased a lot. For some people, passion is more important than career. For some people, career is more important than passion. Some people say that you can't make your passion your bread and butter. However, I felt that for me, my passion was more like my career, and it was. If I had to choose between the two, I would rather choose passion, and that is what happened. I was consistently looking for such opportunities in India after completing my degree, and one fine day, although it was rare to find, there was an opportunity which came by my way where I had the opportunity to be a psychologist for national and international level athletes in one of the Indian Army's specialized units. Finally, the day of interview came, and I went to that specialized unit which was looking after the shooting sport, and there were 30 different psychologists who came to that interview, where only one selection was going to happen for that post. There were many people who had professional degrees in sports psychology from the UK and from India itself, from Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar, and from some universities in the foreign like Cardiff University or Loughborough University, as well as there were people who came from India from different psychology streams, and some of them were professors, some of them had cleared that net, some of them were related to physical sports, the physical education department, and I felt somewhere that I never know that what lies in front of me, whether I'll get selected, whether I'll not get selected. However, that passion of an athlete was always there inside me, and somewhere I feel that I could connect to the athlete very easily, because at one time I also was an athlete, and I knew the athlete mindset as well as I had the psychology background. So I combined these two, gave the interview, and finally I got the result that I was selected. When I came into the specialized unit of the Indian Army, the officials over there told me that they had only one dream, and that was to take these athletes from the Indian Army to play for India at the World Championships, at the Olympic Games, and at the highest level for India. And they wanted to look after that 1% or 2% increment, which could come from the psychological aspect, which could come from the mind, because mind is something that we never look towards with seriousness. However, it matters a lot. As much as strength and conditioning is important, as much as kinesiology is important, biomechanics is important, such is an important aspect of sports psychology as well for athletes, where sitting with a psychologist for 1 hour, maybe once in a week, can help them understand, self reflect on different aspects of their own performance. Maybe not even performance, maybe their personal life that might be having an impact on their sport. I did not have any differentiation between national level athletes and international level athletes, because I treated all of them in the same way, because each and every one of them had the potential to play for India at the international level. However, I did used to take into account what the individual athlete had in mind when he or she used to look forward for counseling session, because each and every person is not the same, and each and every person would not take the same services or the same time of the psychologist. Someone might just take 15 minutes, someone might just take 2 hours, and someone might just not even look towards a sports psychologist. I found a lot of positive reinforcement and for positive feedback, and a lot of curiosity from the athletes. However, I was concerned after looking at some coaches, not all coaches, but a few coaches who were really apprehensive about a sports psychologist joining that team because they thought that they knew the minds of the athletes better than a psychologist. And they thought that maybe having a sports psychologist on board might not improve the performance, however, deteriorate the performance. However, once I started coming to each and every training session, looking at the athletes while performing the sport, when I also went along with the athletes to each and every national and international competition that they played, that is the time when the coaches and the athletes really found confidence in me, because I was not only taking sessions inside a cubicle with the athletes and coaches, I was actually going to the training and competition ground and looking at them performing. And I used to make my own notes. And there is a concept in sports psychology which we call phenomenological study, where a psychologist plainly observes the athletes performing, the coach and athlete relationship, the parent and athlete relationship, the different environmental cues that can have an impact on an athlete's performance. Earlier on in my career, I always used to feel that a psychologist needs to go to the athlete first and always initiate the conversation and ask to the athlete. However, later on, I realized that the sports psychologist should be laid back and should leave it to the athlete to come and ask the psychologist whether he needs some help or doesn't need some help. However, there are instances where a psychologist does need to go and look at the athlete on a few rare occasions when the athlete is very introvert and the psychologist thinks that he needs to step in to help that athlete, because if he doesn't, then the athlete might go wrong. In sports psychology, we have a lot of topics like motivation, personality, phenomenological study. We also have the concept of flow, and it becomes really confusing when we look at all these topics. However, once we start practicing sports psychology as a psychologist, things become much more clearer to us, and the different aspects can be applied all together. But you need to have passion in the work that you do, and that bond needs to be there, that connection should be there. The athletes should really come forward and should be looking forward to connect with you. They should have that confidence on you. If you have that confidence till the end and you are able to maintain that confidence with the athletes and the coaches, then you are the best sports psychologist. So this was my journey as a sports psychologist till now. Right now, I have taken an active break from the career. However, I would again like to restart whenever an opportunity comes my way. So this was all about a life of sports psychologist in India. And what do you think about this video? Please let me know in the comment section. If you're a psychologist and aiming to become a sports psychologist, you can write your thoughts, your apprehensions, and I'll be willing to write back to you via email. If you like this content, please subscribe my channel and like this video, and do not forget to press the bell icon. Thank you guys.